one of the Chamber team members. We are very happy to have Nick Roush here today to talk about wellness during COVID-19 and how to take care of ourselves and others. So before we get to Nick, I just want to share just a few pieces of Chamber news. So number one, the Senate passed the COVID-19 response bill today, and Governor Evers is expected to sign it. And that allows the state to give out the $2.3 billion that Wisconsin will receive from the federal stimulus package. It also temporarily suspends the 1-week waiting period for unemployment insurance. Another update, the feds released guidance about unemployment assistance, and OSHA released retailer guidelines for COVID-19, and you can find more information about that on our website. And we want to wish congratulations to Kim Smith, the new mayor of Onalaska. And you can find other spring highlights on our website. The Chamber is up to a couple exciting things. We have a jobs board that's gaining a lot of momentum, and you can find that at La Crosse Area Jobs if you search that tag on Facebook to either post or share with people that you know are looking for jobs. And we're creating a virtual tour using footage from all over the area to help human resource departments still help recruit people. So we have a call out requesting footage, photographs, video of all of La Crosse. And so more information about that can also be found on our website. Just a note about the 2 upcoming chamber chats. So tomorrow we have another chamber chat, and that is going to be with a representative from Train talking about their experience having a COVID-19 positive employee. And then on Friday, we have a representative from the Parenting Place coming to speak about how to keep your kids healthy and how to talk to them about COVID. So we're very excited for those as well. And so for Nick, we want to say thanks to Nick for joining us today. Nick is a business owner in La Crosse. He owns Roush Rentals and is the co-founder and co-owner of Root Down Yoga with his wife Mandy on the north side. Mandy and Nick are both givers. They're very active in the La Crosse community. So we are very lucky to have them here today. When I think about Nick and Mandy, I feel like my blood pressure drops when I talk to them because they are such calming presences. And so he's a perfect match today to talk about fitness and wellness and how to take care of ourselves and take care of others. So Nick, go ahead.
I had to unmute myself. Thanks for the great intro, Beth. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you guys today, and super grateful for the Chamber for asking me to be a part of this today. Help share some great things with you that I think can really help in this time. I feel like saying words like help in this time is, I don't know, it must get said 10,000 times a day by all kinds of people. It's like the most overused soundbite in the world right now. And the reality is that that COVID-19 and everything that's happening in this crisis right now has caught us and the world greatly by surprise. And the reality is that the impact goes far beyond the virus itself in the economic impacts and every single person that it touches, and then all the things that happen as a result of stay-at-home orders and businesses being closed. Just a surge of emotions happen in the context of that because of what's going on. And so the things I want to talk about today is the things that are sort of maybe incumbent upon us. I feel like anybody who's tuning in, odds are as a chamber member, why are we here, right? You're a leader, odds are. There's a good chance that you're a leader in your business, you maybe are a leader in your family, you're a leader in the community, and people that you are surrounded with, both above and below sort of the ordinates and all the people in our lives are looking to us as leaders for some help. And so it's my thought that I just want to kind of share some of the background of the things that we're all going through right now to normalize a lot of that stuff, because we're experiencing a lot of challenges, and that's not unusual. It's perfectly normal. Like what we're going through right now is to be expected in the reaction. So let's talk a little bit about that. I think that something that's a little bit missed right now that isn't part of the conversation is that We've got the mental health aspects, the physical health aspects, and all that. When I think about mental wellness and mental well-being right now, we're all experiencing, to some degree or another, a pretty big sense of loss. A loss of our normal, a loss of our routine, our schedules, relationships, maybe the world as we know it. Who knows what the long-term change out of this will be as a result of what's happening. Certainly a loss of a lot of our normal coping mechanisms and the things that we do normally to maintain sanity. It's like, I can't just go do whatever I would normally do as a result of the things that have changed in this world. And I think in saying that, we experience all the things that come along with loss. We experience grief and we experience anger and denial. I mean, speaking personally, when this first went down, I spent the first 2 weeks raging against the machine. I was just so frustrated with what was going on, and I wanted it to be different than it was. And, I had to spend so much time being right about what I thought and everything else. So just in calling myself out, I've experienced just a gamut of emotions, and I still am in the context of this. And so my point in saying that is, that's normal. And it's okay. It's normal and okay for those feelings to have happened and to still be happening, because this is hard. It's challenging. And just to say that out loud, I mean, I know a lot of us as leaders, we sort of live with this unspoken expectation that we should, pardon my French, we should have our shit together all the time, and everything should look perfect, and we should always have the answers. And sometimes that's not true. We just don't. So the surge of emotions and things that we're going through is okay. And the other part that comes up in this is we're spending lots of time in confinement, right? Where with loved ones or friends or family or whatever. And there's another truth of human situation, that when we're in a confined situation, tensions rise, tensions go up. And we start to say things we don't mean. We start to get upset because we don't have our normal outlets to sort of let that stuff out, right? That's one part of what happens in confined space with people. And again, totally normal. We just got to figure out ways to move that energy out and have positive ways to take these emotions that we're feeling and take these energies that we're feeling and move them in a direction that can maybe serve us a little bit better. So those are my first thoughts around that, is that it's super normal. And all those emotions are real and they're valid. Again, sometimes they don't necessarily serve us in the moment with the way that they show up. So hoping that we can do some things to reframe that. The other piece is also recognizing that as much as we might be in confined space with certain people because of whatever our situation is in stay-at-home orders, we also need connection. We are social animals. So if we don't stay connected to other people and our tribe and the people around us, it can feel really lonely and isolating. And that can be really hard. The emotions that come along with that, sadness, anger, depression, anxiety, all these things happen when we start to exist in a place of loneliness and isolation, which is a big thing right now. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that and ways to reach out to people. I just feel like I want you to leave this conversation today with some concrete practices, things you can do. So we're social creatures, we have to do that. The other thing is that our perception creates our reality. So as humans, we tend to interpret our world through the story that we tell ourselves about the world. If I tell myself that, it's a beautiful sunny day and that life is great and there's all kinds of good stuff going on, odds are I'm going to live with maybe more happiness and more contentment than if I tell myself a story that everything sucks and I'm unhappy and it's cloudy outside every day and it always rains in Wisconsin or whatever. Then I'm going to see the world through that lens. And so to some extent, right, our story is a result of circumstance, and to a greater extent, our story that we tell ourselves is a result of personal choice. So that's another part of the tools we'll talk about today to help kind of rewrite perception. So I want to talk about concrete practices for wellness. Okay, here's number one. and you might want to write these down. And what I'll do maybe is put together some notes that can get emailed out to the group too that I think will help. But number one is gratitude practice, okay? If I see the world through the lens of the things that I am grateful for, right? Whatever that happens to be, as trivial as something I'm grateful for might be, or as grand as something that I'm grateful for might be, then that's going to change my lens, right? So it's really easy to say, I'm going to involve a gratitude practice and I'm going to do something on my own. And what I found is that that is not super sustainable or lasting. So it helps for me if I have a gratitude buddy, because then I have accountability, right? So here's the practice, and I can share with you that for Mandy and I, my wife and I, this practice has been life-changing, and we do it every single day, like every day. So what do? Pick out somebody in your circle that you love and care about that really matters to you, whether it's a spouse or girlfriend, boyfriend, significant other, a really close friend, whatever, and have this conversation with them to be a gratitude buddy, okay? And what you're gonna do is every day, either by text or by talk, you're gonna share 3 things that you're grateful for that day, whatever they may be, 3 things that you're grateful for, right? So you're purposefully retuning your lens to the things that you're grateful for, right? That's the first part of the gratitude practice. The second part is you're going to share at least one thing that you admire or appreciate about the other person, okay? So 3 things that you're grateful for that was in your experience that day. Like today, I'm super grateful it's sunny outside. Trivial, but boy, it feels good. I'm super grateful that that's happening. I'm super grateful that I got to have a really nutritious lunch and feed my body in a healthy way because I can afford to buy groceries, and that's awesome, right? Like, and I'm super grateful for all the amazing help I have in my life with the fantastic people that work for us at Root Down, the fantastic people that work for us at Roush Rentals. I'm so grateful for the awesome things they do. And I so appreciate and admire my wife's loving attitude toward all of the creatures at our barn, right? Like she is so loving and amazing in the way that she is for others and for the critters at our barn, right? So in doing this, I've killed 2 birds with 1 stone. I have engaged in a gratitude practice, which helps change my lens and shift my perspective. And because I got a buddy, I'm now creating connection with somebody else. I'm purposefully creating connection and I'm changing my lens. So that's number 1, gratitude practice. Okay, number 2, being for other people. I am sure if I could see all your faces, I'd ask you to raise your hand to tell me, do you feel better when you give a gift or you get a gift? Raise your hand if you feel like you feel better when you give a gift, right? Everybody feels better when you give a gift. So how can you be for others in this time? And that isn't to say that your own challenges are invalid. What that says is that you're willing to stand for somebody else in what they're going through. And that can be a little hard right now. We're physically separated. We can't meet with as many people face to face. Sometimes we're confined with folks that we maybe love them and want to strangle them in the same conversation sometimes, right? Because we just all need our alone time and stuff like that too, right? So there's this like push and pull that comes with that. So here's what the second tool that helps with this, and that is present listening. That when you somebody else is sharing with them their experience, and you ask them, you know, how are you feeling today? And you're just checking in with them to see how are they doing. Now, at first, they're going to give you the awesome Midwest answer of, I'm great, how are you? that's what people do. And, you know, you have to maybe ask for a little more and say, tell me, how are you really? Like checking in with them, what's going on, right? And so in that moment, you have a choice. If you can presently listen to them, really pay attention to what they have to say, and really like eye contact, you're there for them, right? That's the first piece. The second part of it is listening to understand. versus listening to respond or react. Right now, people have different feelings about what's going on in the world and how they feel about what's happening with COVID-19, how they feel about what's happening politically, how they feel about what's happening economically. And there's lots of differences of opinions, right? And that can sometimes make conversations really charged. So can you put your own stuff aside for a moment, and instead of listening to react, listening to figure out how you want to respond to what they're saying, listening to maybe trying to change the conversation to fit your narrative, can you just listen to understand? And listen to understand how they feel and give them a safe space with a lack of judgment to let them share what's really going on for them. And there again, increasing the opportunity for connection between you and the other person, whoever that happens to be, because we're social creatures and we need that. And two, it might open your eyes up to other perspectives that maybe you were blind to before. Because as we love to make our story up about things, we get very attached to our story and we think that we're pretty right about our story. And then when that starts to occur, the ability for new information to get into our heads that are sometimes made of wood is challenging. So if we can just be really present and listen to understand versus listening to respond or react, that's number two. Okay, number three. And I won't go on forever here. I'll wrap this up pretty quickly and then I'll take questions and stuff like that. Number three is reframing. A lot of people look at the world through the lens of winning and losing. And like, I'm either winning at the game or I'm losing at the game. And the winning, when you're winning, well, that feels great. Losing maybe doesn't feel so great when you look at it through the lens of losing. And some of you have maybe heard me talk about this before, but I like to look at things through the lens of winning and learning. Okay, so when I'm winning, yay, awesome. And when I'm learning, I'm learning that something that's happening for me right now is not working out, right? Like I'm stumbling or something isn't happening like I want it to. And so in the context of that, I could say in one hand that I'm losing, or I could say, oh, I'm learning that doing this way doesn't work. I'm learning that when I listen to react and I'm all over somebody with my thoughts, that I really don't convince them of anything, nor do I give myself any space to understand what they think. And I'm losing when that happens. Or something can go wrong and I could say, okay, well, this went wrong. And what did I learn from that? How do I not want to do that again if I can possibly avoid it? Possibly, maybe. And then what did I learn about how I want to do that differently the next time? So the reframing perception has a lot to what's going on right now. For instance, one of our businesses was forced to close. And that was super hard. And we're having to navigate all kinds of things about how do we keep the finances going and how do we continue to try to pay employees and how do all these crazy programs work. And I could look at that through the lens of I'm losing constantly. And there are things in which we are losing. There's no question of that. But I can also look at that and say, wow, I've had an opportunity through this to learn a whole lot more about how these systems work. I've had an opportunity to strengthen my bond with many of my employees by trying to do the best possible things that I can for them when the system doesn't really allow for a lot of that, right? Like I'm trying to stand for them despite the circumstances that are going on and figure out ways for them to still be able to feed their families and do the things that they have to do. And that feels pretty good to learn about that and help them. And I think also it's figuring out in the context of this, what we need to do to move forward. And if I sit and I'm losing all the time, I'm going to lose the perspective to create forward action. And I know as leaders, many of the people that work for you or work with you are looking to you for what are the things we need to do to move forward in this time? Because I can wallow in what's going wrong, or I can try to take purposeful, positive forward action to try to make something happen. And when I look at things through the lens of winning and learning, it's a lot easier to do that. Okay, so those are my three mental well-being things from a concrete practice. So gratitude practice, get a gratitude buddy, 3 things you're grateful for, and at least 1 thing you appreciate and admire about the other person. Number 2, listening to understand versus listening to respond or react. And number 3, reframing in winning and learning versus winning and losing. Those are those 3 parts. And then the last piece I'm going to share, and before I get into some questions, is a breath work practice. So a little bit of yoga stuff now. So in yoga, there's this word that we use. It's called pranayama, okay? And the word prana is the same word for breath, okay? That means breath. And yama means control. So pranayama, breath control. Now, as it turns out, the word prana also means life. And so if I switched around the words, pranayama, breath control, or life control. Breath control, life control. Okay? So if we think of our breath, you don't need to think about breathing to breathe. It's an autonomic function. Your body breathes you if you're not thinking about breathing, right? Nod your head yes if that makes sense. Okay, good. For those that I can see. So you don't have to think about it. It's an autonomic function. So if you can learn to take control of an autonomic function in one part of your life with your breath, then odds are you might be able to learn how to take control of your life in other parts where other automatic functions exist. Meaning somebody says something that pisses you off. And your automatic reaction might be to be really angry and animated and reactive with that person. And there's a hard wiring in our brain that sort of sets us up for that, right? The little part of our brain called the amygdala that likes to live in that fight, flight, freeze place. And when the amygdala is functioning, that's that little part that's about as big as a walnut in the middle, it stops this part in the front called your prefrontal cortex, where your thinking brain is. That part just shuts off. When the amygdala takes over, the prefrontal cortex is out of the game. And so then we call that our reptile brain. And we don't act as our best selves when we're from that place. So if I can learn through this breath control, life control, to control my breath, I can start to reroute some of those automatic functions in my body so that now I have some tools to interrupt that immediate reactivity to whatever's going on. So here's the breath work that we're going to do, and it's called 4-2-8 breath, okay? And what I like to do, I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to close my eyes, because if I close my eyes, I'm removing a sense, and so now I can pay much closer attention to what I'm feeling in my body. I'm way closer attention because I'm not distracted by what I'm seeing. Then I'm going to breathe in to the count of 4 to myself. I'm just going to count 4. Then I'm going to hold my breath for 2 seconds, or a count of 2. And then I'm going to breathe out to the count of 8. And I'm going to do all this through my nose. And so why through my nose? When we breathe in and out of our mouth, autonomically, it's like, it says to our body, like, I'm getting ready to do something. I'm getting ready to fight. I'm getting ready to run. I'm getting ready to take action. It's like a more of an animal response. And when you breathe through your nose, it sends a message to your brain that says, oh, I can be more calm right now. I don't have to be as energized as maybe I have been. And I don't know about you guys, but I've had a lot of energized moments in the last few weeks. A lot of energized moments. So I'm just going to close my eyes and I'm just going to breathe in. I'm just going to do that. We're going to ask you guys each to do that in the audience here 3 times. So you can close your eyes. You can breathe in and out of your nose. Breathe in for a count of 4. Hold it for 2. And empty for a count of 8. And I want you to do that 3 times for me, and then just wave at me when you're done. I'll go to gallery view so I can see. Awesome. I see people waving at me and thumbs up. Raise your hand if you feel a little better just from doing that. Yeah, you get super present. You have a chance to feel your body and calm down a little bit. And I think this is an awesome tool to kind of do before bed. It's also an awesome tool to do when you feel like you're going to lose your blank, right? Like when you feel like you're at your limits and you're upset, just like a pause for a little breathing, because there's so many things that are so trying right now that are pulling on our emotions. A lot of us, our nerves are just super afraid. And so it's easy to go to that amygdala reactive place. And so instituting this little breath interrupted practice can really rewire stuff. Maybe do the breath practice and then do your gratitude thing for the day and tell your other person what you're grateful for and what you admire and appreciate about them. Okay, let's see, what else is going on? I'll just share briefly before I get into questions that for the physical practice of yoga that we teach, the asana practice, obviously studio's closed right now, but we have all kinds of free classes posted on our YouTube page. So if you go to Root Down Yoga's YouTube channel, you'll find all kinds of classes that we posted there that you can do at home. And also right now in this time, every Saturday at 4 o'clock, you can sign up through our website. We are doing Karma for COVID classes, and you can zoom in just like this, and we teach a class in real time. And you can practice. We had like 90 some yogis for a couple weeks in a row, like 78 last week, to zoom in, and you can donate to whatever the cause is that week for Karma class, which we do every Saturday all the time. We're committed to doing this every Saturday till we reopen. We raised, the first couple of weeks we did for Boys and Girls Club, we raised almost $3,000 for the BGC. And then last week we did the warming center and it was like 1,200 and something. So just trying to do the things that we can to help those in the community who really, really need our help and support right now. So with that, I'm gonna stop talking and share some of these great things. And I'm open to questions and things that are coming up for you. You can chat. And Maggie, I think, is the administrator, so she can unmute people if you want to talk. Or you can, I think you can unmute yourself. Is that true, Maggie? You can unmute yourself. It doesn't become too much of a free-for-all. So I'm here for you. How can I help? Not everybody at once. It's okay to ask. Don't see anything right now. I'll wait a couple minutes because people may be typing and I can't see if they're typing because I don't have their screen on.
Nick, hey.
Yeah, Christian.
Hey, how's it going?
Good to see you.
When you were talking about the breathing and how you just said that it felt like really, really calm, have you noticed any other areas that when you do that breathing, or maybe a different type of breathing that you see maybe like more focus, or any areas of your life, especially now with all the stress, that it's improved or anything?
Absolutely. I mean, breath work and pranayama is something that I try to practice a ton, especially when I'm on my mat. But it's a huge tool in stress management, one. And also, it really helps in regaining focus, because it's so easy when lots of emotions are happening and we have so many things pulling at our time right now, so many things pulling at our resources, that we can get pretty fragmented, right? Where our energy, our prana, our life force just gets so spread around that we can't direct it in any one place. And so coming back to that really personal practice lets you rein that energy back in and then redirect your efforts, reprioritize your efforts. So super helpful right now because the push-pull is just so much more exaggerated at the moment, but super helpful all the time. I mean, for anybody in business and family, and I mean, all the things. We have so many things that pull us in so many directions, right? Like between this monster and the computer and the text and the Facebook and the Instagram and the emails and the right? So yes, that's an awesome tool for pulling focus back and reining it in. Mm-hmm.
Cool, I appreciate it, thanks.
Center ideas. Nick, how have you innovated to bring your centered ideas you teach to your core audience and beyond? And what kind of feedback are you getting? Okay, great question. Great question. So I think what we're seeing right now in today's world is that the science to back up like multiple thousand-year-old practices that are mindfulness practices, right? The science is showing up to back up that the things I'm talking about and that yogis and people in the martial arts, Tai Chi, meditation, all kinds of stuff have been talking about for thousands of years, right? We've always known intuitively that this stuff works, and now science is just backing up that, yes, it does work. So how I'm moving that beyond the conversation of just yoga is looking at how these things show up in the world. Yours truly is writing a book. And that book is called The Yoga of Business, and how to bring the ethical practices of yoga to business practice. And that more centered place that comes from those conversations really just puts you in a more skilled place for all of your relationships, business relationships, family, all that stuff. And I'm not perfect, I mess up plenty, but my reboot time is way faster than it used to be. And also my ability to say that I was wrong and restart a situation is much different than it used to be. And I think the feedback I'm getting right now in having these conversations outside of the yoga studio and outside of those places is that people find that they really work and that the stuff makes a difference in their lives. I think that with anything, I think to some extent we're all from Missouri, the show me state, and we all want proof that stuff works, and we want proof that things work. And I think that the feedback so far is that when people are willing to put in the time to really put these practices into play, they find that those benefits in their lives show up in a super concrete way. And I think that that's been my feedback so far, is that if you'll take the time to do the practices work, right? Okay, another question. Do you have any book recommendations related to yoga or calmness? Oh my God, absolutely. So my most favorite yoga book, okay? The name of the author is Deborah Adele, just like Adele the singer, Deborah Adele. And the name of the book is The Yamas and Niyamas, okay? Y-A-M-A-S and N-I-Y-A-M-A-S. The Yamas and Niyamas by Deborah Adele. I think it's like $13. And it'll be the best $13 you could ever spend in your life. Here's why. The Yamas and Niyamas are the first two limbs of yoga practice. For those that don't know, the yoga path is an 8-limb path, only one of which is the physical practice of yoga poses. The other 7 have little to do with that. And so the first 2 limbs are really about the ethical practices of yoga. Those are the Yamas and Niyamas. And I would say that it's kind of like, it's like the stereo instructions on how to live your life and not create messes, right? Oh, thanks, Beth, for putting that up there. Yay, awesome. Here's the thing. Deborah, and she's a personal friend, love Deborah, took this thousands of year old wisdom and she distilled it down into a book that is so accessible. When you read the book, it's like, oh, that's my life, right? That's me. I do that. I say things like that. I find myself in those things. It's not unrelatable. It's not really esoteric and hard to understand. The languaging all makes sense, and it just resonates in your heart. And it is a spectacular book, and in this time, more valuable now than ever. So, so amazing. That's my #1 recommendation there. Other books, anything from Brene Brown, ridiculously amazing. Like, she is rock star, and she has a spectacular new podcast right now called Unlocking Us. The one, oh my God, I have to look it up. Beth, the newest one, she'll put it in the notes in the chat, is with Dr. Mark Brackett on permission to feel. Some of the things you heard me say today will sound familiar from that. Oh my God, so good. Like super spectacular podcast. Brene Brown, Unlocking Us, her podcast right now is amazing. The newest episode is so fantastic. Um, there's also a really great conversation. I have a huge amount of respect for Esther Perel, who's another fantastic psychologist and therapist. She did a podcast recently on the Tim Ferriss show that was so spectacular. Esther has fantastic insight. She's a brilliant woman, an amazing author, super smart, and so insightful into the truth of human existence. Just absolutely love her work as well. Yeah, let's see. So that's my book and a couple podcast recommendations, things that are front of mind for me right now in skillful living, wholehearted living. Any other questions anybody's got or things that I can do to help?
Yeah,
Nick.
Nick,
Go ahead, Maggie.
Go ahead, Maggie.
I have one that came in anonymously. Can you share any specific exercises to protect and strengthen your lungs?
Yes. So pranayama, these exercises that we talked about with breath work, super concrete way to help your lungs and help respiration. What you'll find is that if you look at like normal human breathing, we only use about 20 to 30% of our lung capacity most of the time, because we sit kind of slumped over and our diaphragm's crushed and we're all stressed out and pissed off, and the stuff that we do every day limits our breath capacity. And so to do the pranayama work, that 4-2-8 breath we talked about, stand up straight so you have room for your diaphragm to work. And then what I want you to do is when you find fullness, you want to find complete fullness, like your lungs are, your chest is open, your belly's open, even your back body a little bit, like as much breath as you can find. And then when you breathe out, I love the analogy of it's like you're wringing out a towel. Like you want to find complete emptiness where there's just nothing left in there, nothing left at all. And so in doing so, you grow the total volume of your breath, right? That's huge. The second piece is get outside right now and do this stuff, okay? It might be kind of cold. Put on a jacket. It's not January, okay? Fresh air, nature, reconnecting with those things to help your lungs. It is amazing. So, and the stuff that's going on right now, and there's a lot of concrete research coming out about this, when we're stressed and we feel lonely, all these things can have the equivalent effect on our bodies of smoking like a pack of cigarettes a day, okay? Like this stuff is really bad for us. So we need to move that energy out. So get outside, go for a walk. You don't need to go for a run and do something like high intensity training right now. I'm not saying those things are bad, but those things may not be your friend right now. When you're already in a stressed fight or flight place, to do really strenuous physical things may feel good in the moment and then result in a big crash after. So in taking care of our physical and emotional mental wellness in this time, like really mindful movement, right? Really easy yoga practice, full and empty breath, super important to find total fullness, total emptiness. You may find you get a little lightheaded if you're doing that for the first time in your life. If all of a sudden you oxygenate your body like crazy because you're using more of your lung capacity and you're cleaning more carbon dioxide out when you get more empty before that next full breath comes in. But those pieces I think will help most in health of that right now is fresh air and fullness and emptiness of breath really mindfully. I think are the things that will help the most. And the cardiovascular exercise, obviously awesome, but I wouldn't say that over strenuous cardio is super great right now because our bodies are already in enough of a stress state that to add to that, the mental emotional aspects of that may kind of outweigh the cardiovascular. It's just so great to just go for a walk and take some full fresh breath, move some energy out and let that stuff find its way in. Does that make sense? Yeah. Cool. And people want fancy answers than that. And the truth of it is that fancy answers sometimes aren't the right ones. The simple ones are often sometimes the most true. Any other questions we got today?
Nick, I have one, and this is a kind of a follow-up to the book recommendation. So in the midst of this physical distancing that we have to do,
Yeah.
I know that you have free videos, which is great. Are there places that you can point people to, favorite apps or favorite websites, where people can practice on their own if they can't go into a studio?
Yeah.
Or even that mindful meditation, the breathing, any of that wellness?
Yes. There's some really great, there's multiple, so I won't throw them all up, but there's a lot of great meditation apps that can be super helpful in that. And starting a seated meditation practice can be really challenging right now because we just kind of have so many mental gymnastics going on. So those apps can be super helpful because they give you somewhere to put your awareness, right? So with a concrete place to put your awareness, it's a lot more accessible that way. Online practice, you can go to our YouTube channel, great opportunity there. Other studios that I know, love, and respect, the Yoga Project, which is some good friends of ours down in Texas, have some fantastic podcasts. Stacy and Dave Dawkins, they're very close friends of ours, do some really great things. Jiva Yoga in South Carolina, really great. Another friend of ours that does some great podcast stuff too. Love Jean's work. And then we talked about meditation app. And I'm so glad you said that word, social distancing. Okay, so Nick, you guys will laugh. I so resent the term social distancing. I hate it. I hate that word. It's physical distancing, okay? We're social creatures. So just because I can't give you a hug doesn't mean I can't stand 6 feet away from you and be like totally present to you, and I'm looking you in the eye and I'm there for you for conversation. All the things that are true about our social interaction can still happen even if I can't give you a hug. So where does that show up? Like where that shows up right now, I'm gonna preach a little bit, so forgive me, right? It shows up at the grocery store. It shows up at Quick Trip. You know, we don't need to act like it's zombie apocalypse and try to avoid eye contact at all costs, right? It's totally okay to like look people in the eye and say, hi, how are you? It's, you know, and thank you so much for your help. You know, I stopped the other day at the grocery store and I told the person who was working restocking the aisles, I said, hey, just so you know, you're doing an awesome job right now and this store looks fantastic. And you doing that helps people feel better. And so I'm just saying thank you. And she burst into tears, right? Because she was like, oh, somebody saw what I'm doing and they appreciate it, right? So get rid of the social distancing, physical distancing. We need to stay socially connected because we are social creatures. Okay, did that answer your question, Beth? Sorry. Yeah. Any other questions that anybody else has got today? Looks like Maggie put my email address up there. Feel free to email me. I'll do my best to respond with the things that I can. Know that unfortunately my time is like really thin right now, so I may not be able to respond right away, but if I can help you or point you in the right direction for some good resources, I absolutely will do that. If there's no other questions, I'll just say, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Love your friends, love your family, get your gratitude buddy. Get the practice going. Start today if you can. Don't wait for later. Do it now. Try to listen to understand to everybody, and maybe you'll learn something and feel a little bit better. Reframe into what you're learning in this time, and I really encourage you to grab a hold of that breath practice. Practice with us. Come see us at the studio when we get reopened. Join us for Karma class. Help out local people. Support local business right now. I got to give that plug. Support local business. Jeff Bezos is not showing up with a truck of money to help lacrosse, right? Amazon is not going to help lacrosse. Only you can by spending money with your friends and neighbors and the people that you care about. So with that, take care of yourselves and each other. Love you all, and I look forward to meeting you, seeing you soon.
Nick, thank you so much. And you did it again. I seriously feel like my blood pressure is lower, and everybody probably on the call can probably say the same thing. So thank you for taking your time out of your schedule to do this. Thank you for the way you give to lacrosse. Thank you for being a small business owner. We're just really grateful to have you in the lacrosse community. So with that, we'll sign off.
Thank you, Beth. Take care, you guys. Bye.
Thanks.